Hi everyone, I'm Andrea Zodrow, and I'm thrilled to be representing Finite State today. I'll be your entertainment, just kidding. We'll be talking about navigating global regulations and helping you streamline compliance for products and application security. Global regulations are really being introduced at a rate, making it very difficult for organizations to keep up. And so our goal today is to help you understand these regulations and these changes, why they matter, and how you can stay ahead. But before we dive in, let me just walk you through the agenda. First, we'll take a look at the current threat landscape. This really sets the stage for why these new regulations are important. Then we'll move to the evolving regulatory landscape and break down some of the most impactful regulations that could potentially impact your business. And then we'll also discuss how your organization can stay ahead of these changes with a proactive security stance. And then finally, we'll take a look at a path forward, outlining some actionable steps that you can take to ensure both compliance and security. So before I jump in, let me tell you a little bit more about myself and Finite State. I spent about 8 years in the IoT and embedded space with a more recent focus on product and software security. I really enjoy helping companies safeguard their software and their devices, but also ensure that they're meeting those regulatory requirements. A little bit about Finite State. We have been around for the last 7 years. We were founded by cybersecurity experts that have deep government experience. And we really empower product security teams and manufacturers to protect those devices that run a lot of the world these days. We do this through our solutions and expertise. So let's start by talking about some of the threat landscape, so the current landscape. So connected devices are everywhere. I don't know about you, but before I even got up this morning, I probably touched 4 different connected devices. They're in our homes, they're in our cars, they're in our critical infrastructure. And by 2025, there's supposed to be 75 billion connected devices globally. And when you think about that, the sheer scale is huge when there's 8 billion people globally. And so these devices bring a lot of innovation and convenience. However, they also bring a bigger attack surface for bad actors. New vulnerabilities are discovered on average every 30 minutes. And so with that, we found that 91% of organizations have already suffered a software supply chain attack just since last year. So the major challenge that we are seeing in the software supply chain is that organizations are relying more and more on third-party components, whether that be open source libraries, embedded systems, or custom firmware. And complexity of monitoring those components and just ensuring that they're secure can be overwhelming. Each of those components actually presents an opportunity for a bad actor to either exploit a known vulnerability or inject malicious code into those software libraries. And so the hardest part is the lack of visibility. Many orgs don't have a clear picture of the third-party components, let alone if they're secure. So by 2026, we anticipate 60% of orgs will require to provide SBOMs. The SBOMs really provide that transparency into the components that are used in the applications. Really, without it, you're flying blind. So governments around the world have started to recognize these risks, and we're seeing a new influx of regulations aimed at improving security. The first one is the European Cyber Resilience Act. That's for anyone that's selling into the European market. SBOMs, continuous monitoring, the ability to report incidents within 24 hours are all part of that act, and the penalties can be pretty stiff. You can lose access to that potential market. There's a fine of 2.5% of your global annual revenue, or around 16 million USD, whichever is higher. And then a few years back, President Biden implemented Executive Order 14028. The purpose there is to really provide that visibility to federal agencies and its contractors. So like the EU CRA, SBOMs, continuous monitoring, and having SBOMs are a part of that act as well. The penalties for this is that you could potentially lose contracts to the government and not be able to support those companies. And then in the medical space, the FDA has provided pre-market guidance and 524B. And again, that's to ensure the safety and security of medical devices. Again, requiring SBOMs, a cybersecurity plan, vulnerability assessments. The penalties for that is market access, withdrawal of the product, and potentially fines. I had a medical device customer come to us after a safety recall. Could have been avoided if they had better software testing in place. A button was malfunctioning when dispensing medication, and they ended up shipping and had to do a recall. They had to stop selling in the US and couldn't sell anything new until they resubmitted to the FDA. So they ended up missing about a year in the US market. And then the final one is more of a voluntary, the Cyber Trust Mark. This was launched by the FCC, and this was really aimed at helping improve the security of consumer devices. And so it's similar to the Energy Star sticker you might see on appliances. So by implementing the US Cyber Mark, it really signals to consumers that their devices have met those rigorous security criteria. My understanding is that Amazon and Google will be participating in the Cyber Trust Mark soon. So each of those regulations share a common theme to ensure connected devices and software are secure by design and continue to be monitored throughout their life cycle. And while there isn't a global standard today, there's some overlap and commonalities, and these are some of the things that we see across the regulations. So building securely by design, you might have heard shifting left, security throughout that design and development process. Software bill of materials, as we mentioned, provides that transparency. It's essentially a recipe for all of your ingredients in that software application. And then continuous monitoring of products for vulnerabilities and security issues. As I mentioned earlier, I think we're finding anywhere a new vulnerability every 30 minutes. So continuously monitoring and making sure that those devices and software are secure. And then a process for managing these vulnerabilities, providing updates and patches in a timely manner, and being able to report those exploited vulnerabilities. And so what happens if you don't do anything? So there could be a potential financial impact, whether it's data theft or ransomware, or regulatory fines. The cost of a cyber attack could be devastating. Last year, on average, a cyber breach was around $4 million. There could also be operational downtime. Compromised IoT devices can be used as a vector to get into other potential attacks that disrupt entire infrastructure, leading to significant production losses. We talked about market access in the previous slide, and then reputation. Suffering a high-profile attack could potentially severely damage your reputation. People are still talking about SolarWinds. So in the absence of a singular global regulation, many industries rely on standards and frameworks. So NIST, ISO, IEC to help guide those security practices. So whether you're in automotive or medical devices or critical infrastructures, aligning with these frameworks is a is a first good step, and it's a strong foundation for meeting those regulatory requirements. So what can you do? Today, there's a couple of different things you can do to stay ahead, aligning to those existing cybersecurity frameworks and standards that we just talked about on the first slide, investing in an SBOM and vulnerability management solution, also joining working groups around SBOM. I know CISA has some, or ISAC, for example. And then potentially partnering with a company like Finite State. We work very closely with the government bodies, so we have a pulse on what's coming down in terms of the latest changes, as well as tools and expertise to meet those requirements and stay ahead. And so at Finite State, we offer a comprehensive platform that supports the entire DevSecOps lifecycle. So by embedding SCA and our binary analysis into CI/CD workflows, we provide that continuous monitoring, auto remediation throughout development, test, and deployment. We also integrate seamlessly with your existing tools, either directly or through API, so there's not a lot of overhead for you to leverage our solution. And so compliance is really more than just checking a box. It's about ensuring your products are secure throughout their life cycle, from SBOM generation to monitoring your vulnerability management and incident response. The platform provides full visibility into a single pane of glass, so that you can to monitor everything in one view. So again, thank you everyone for the time. To wrap up, the threat landscape is constantly evolving as well as the regulations. The key to staying ahead is adopting a layered security approach that includes SBOMs, monitoring, and robust vulnerability management. I know we wrapped a little earlier. If you have any questions, myself and Alice Schaff are here in the audience, and we'd be happy to take any questions. We also have some stickers if anyone's interested in collecting some fun stickers as well. My contact information is there if you have any questions as well, and my LinkedIn. Thanks everyone for the time.